T-minus 30 seconds.
Launch director on countdown 1. SpaceX Falcon Heavy, go for launch.
Falcon Heavy is configured for flight.
T-minus 15, stand by for terminal count. 10, 9, 8.
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Falcon Heavy.
Stage 1 propulsion is knocking out.
T-plus 30 seconds. If you can hear me over the cheering, Falcon Heavy heading to space on our test flight. Building on the history of Saturn V Apollo, returning pad 39A to interplanetary mission. We're getting ready to throttle down for max Q.
Vehicle is supersonic.
You've heard the call out. Vehicle is supersonic.
Side booster cameras as those are coming in.
Yes, PY and NY side boosters have saved.
Center core entry burn shutdown.
And even though those look very similar, those two boosters views, those are actually representing different boosters. And they're heading towards Earth. They're about to begin their landing burns. We'll hopefully be able to bring you nice footage of that.
Both side boosters transonic.
And watch for the landing lights deploy at the tail end of that landing burn.
And that landing burn has started.
Both boosters looking to be on track towards their respective landing zones.
Landing burns have started. Side boosters landing legs have deployed.
And the Falcons have landed.
LZ1, LZ2, both side boosters have touchdown. Landing off and we move on to 11 by 1, recovery 1 and recovery 2.
And coming up very shortly, the Center Core will be attempting its landing on the autonomous spaceport drone ship.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually kind of funny. You know, if you think of like what is education, like you're basically downloading data and algorithms into your brain, and it's actually amazingly bad in conventional education because like it shouldn't be like this huge chore. So you're making it way better. But I mean, I think a lot of the things that I would say you've probably heard 100 times. And in fact, are if not doing, like the more you can gamify the process of learning, the better. Like for my kids, I do not have to encourage them to play video games. Okay, I have to like pry them from their hands, like crack.
Yes.
It's like drop that crack needle.
Yeah. You have that problem at your house too.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
The crack is addictive.
So it's it's to the degree that you can make somehow learning like a game, then it's better. And I think, unfortunately, like a lot of education is very vaudevillian. You've got someone standing up there kind of lecturing at people, and they've done the same lecture 20 years in a row, and they're not very excited about it, and that lack of enthusiasm, is conveyed to the students. They're not very excited about it. They don't know why they're there. Like, why are we learning this stuff? We don't even know why. In fact, I think a lot of things people learn, probably there's no point in learning them. Because they never use them in the future.
Because who's going to launch a rocket into space? I mean, that's just like, yeah, exactly. That never happens.
Well, you have to say, like, people, I think, don't stand back and say, well, why are we teaching people these things? And we should tell them probably why we're teaching these things. Because a lot of kids just in school kind of puzzled as to why they're there. And I think if you can explain the why of things, then that makes a huge difference to people's motivation. Then they understand purpose. So I think that's pretty important, and just make it entertaining. But I think just in general, like, conventional education should be massively overhauled, and I'm sure you very much agree with that. But I mean, the analogy that I sometimes use is, like, you've seen like Batman, like the Chris Nolan movie, like the recent one, and it's pretty freaking awesome, right? And you've got incredible special effects, great script, multiple takes, amazing actors, and great sound, and it's very engaging. But if you were to instead say, okay, that even if you had the same script, so at least it's the same script, and you said, okay, now that script, instead of having movies, we're going to have that script performed by the local town troupe.
Right.
Okay, and so in every small town in America, if movies didn't exist, they would have to then recreate The Dark Knight.
Right.
With like home sewn costumes and like jumping across the stage, and not getting their lines quite right, and not really looking like the people in the movie, and no special effects. And I mean, that would suck. It would be terrible.
That's right. That's Very.
That's education.
That's education.
Hey, Elon. Ted Tagami with educational company called Magnitude.io. I had the good fortune of meeting you back in September, watching your 5 sons launch their own rockets, Black Rock Desert.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And since then, we've actually had the great fortune of sending students' payloads up to the International Space Station. And we're now working with CASIS to extend that. We'd like 50 million students to get on the International Space Station, their experiments on the space station by 2014. Okay. So my question to you is more about the innovations in education and your thoughts. That same year that I met you and your sons, you announced Ad Astra.
Oh, yeah.
And before the advent of Neuralace gets fully implemented, what are your thoughts on the innovations in education today? Thank you.
Just thoughts on education. I think there's maybe there are definitely some good schools out there, but I think some of the mistakes, at least in my opinion, that I see being made in education is that the teachers do not explain why kids are being taught a subject. Just sort of get dumped into math and like, well, why are you learning math? What's the point of this? This seems like some, for some people, like maybe it's, I don't know why I'm being asked to do these strange problems. But the why of things is extremely important, because our brain has evolved to discard information that it thinks has no relevance. So then, if on the one hand you're being asked to memorize or learn, say, formulas, but you do not know why this is the case, then you have this cognitive dissonance of, it seems irrelevant, but I'm being told to remember it, so I'll be punished. so I better remember it. But so the why of things is very important, and then being able to, and then picking kind of a problem, and then using various educational tools to solve that problem, like using math or physics or economics to solve that problem, is far more engaging than teaching the tools. It's the difference between if you say, well, we're going to take apart this engine and see how it works and put it back together again. And then in order to take the engine apart, we need wrenches and screwdrivers and a winch and Allen keys and whatnot. And then in the course of solving the problem of taking the engine apart and putting it back together, you learn about wrenches and screwdrivers and all the tools that you need. And then now you understand the relevance. This is why wrenches are important. Whereas if you had a class on wrenches, you'd be like, why does this not seem that great, So tying it to solving a problem is, I think, very powerful for establishing relevance and getting kids excited about what they're working on, and having the knowledge stick.
Yeah, and so to some extent, building a CubeSat or flying an experiment on ISS is like that, right? You've got the why or the relevance and the curiosity in terms of building that device or that experiment. I think the results. So it really is cool. It ties to the. It gives you really a concrete example of what you're learning and why.
Yeah, exactly. I think things like CubeSats, exactly. Because okay, what is a solar panel? How does orbital dynamics work? How do we power this thing? How do batteries work? Electronics, control systems, and you need to. Then you're like, we want to make our satellite work. That's why we need to understand all these disciplines. So I think it's like CubeSats, student CubeSats are great. Like things like design, build, fly for model airplanes or Formula SAE. We've got to design and build a kind of a race car and race that against other people. I think those things are very powerful for learning tools.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right, thank you. I see.